The views and opinions expressed on this platform are of me, myself, and I, not any agency I'm affiliated with. So please do not take what I say personally.
So if you work in EMS, you understand what I mean when I say this. There are a handful of people that I feel like I could actually trust to save my life. And I don't mean that with disrespect to the many other people that I work with. It's just, you wonder, like, if I get in a wreck, if I start having an actual medical issue, who's coming for me? Today on the podcast, I have one of those select few people that if I was going to go through something, if my family member's going to go through something, if anybody's going to show up, I want it to be her. So today, I have with me Alex Isaac. She's been in EMS a lot longer than I have, but we went through paramedic school around the same time, got our patches around the same time, so we kind of both, and what I'm going to talk about, have the same aspect of like what I'm going to call a year in review of being a paramedic on our own for the first time for a full year, kind of reflections, what we've learned, all of that good stuff. So, Alex, if you want to tell the people who you are, what you stand for, go ahead, sis. Go off, queen.
First and foremost, you're going to make me cry. Thanks so much for that. I appreciate that a lot. So my name is Alex. I've been in EMS for about 8 years. I was an EMT for 7, and then I've now been a paramedic for, I think, a year and 2 months. And I got into EMS because it was actually off of a whim. I'll be 100% honest. I liked the uniforms.
I'm here for it. It's not wrong.
I thought the uniforms were so cool, and I just wanted to be one of those super cool women that was like in the boots and the top, what are the Top Gun onesie things?
The jumpsuit?
The jumpsuit! I couldn't think of that word to save my life. I was like, I want to wear a jumpsuit and boots. That's just what I want to do. And the patches. That's so cool to me. But in all actuality, I had a mentor in high school that her entire job was to help us figure out what we wanted to do after we graduated high school. And I had no idea. I actually thought I wanted to be an orthopedic equine veterinarian.
Ooh.
Which is probably about 23 years of college.
Never mind.
And $400,000 worth of debt.
Never mind.
But she sat me down one day and was like, "Look, Alex, your grades are not that great. Let's be realistic here, all right? Not that you can't do it, but let's maybe think of something that you can do in the meantime." You know? And I was like, "Okay, cool." So she mentioned that she had somebody in her family that was in EMS, and she said, "I think you'd be really great at this." And I asked her why. She said that I had a personality that I could be there for people on their worst day, and that's not a trait that a lot of people get to have or carry with them. So, yeah, I graduated high school and then went to National EMS Academy, got my EMT, did that for 7 years, and then finally decided I was going to boss up and get my paramedic. So did that, and here we are.
Very good. And the people in EMS, they understand if you're not in EMS, I feel like there is a pressure while you're a basic, and after you've been a basic for so long, that people kind of pressure you, like, well, when are you going to get your medic? And, like, I went the 0 to hero route of got my patch as an EMT, and within, like, maybe 2 or 3 months, I'm like, all right, when am I getting my medic? Like, this is the next step. I'm going to go ahead and jump in. I think it's necessary to spend a little bit of time, no matter how long it is. And if you stay in EMT forever, like, there's nothing wrong with that.
No, yeah, for sure. So, for me, I actually wasn't considering getting my paramedic for a while. I think at year 4 or 5, I actually signed up for nursing school, got accepted, and I was 2 weeks out from starting nursing school, and my dad actually died. So then when that happened, he was on my FAFSA. So the college came back and said, "Hey, like, your FAFSA isn't going through because your dad was on it." So then I had to, like, kind of go back to the drawing board and figure out what I was going to do next. And I got some advice from people in my life that said, you know, maybe just take the year off and get your mental in order and regroup and see what you want to do next. So I think I spent that whole year on the truck trying to figure out if I was going to continue doing the thing that I told my dad I was going to do, or if I was going to go a completely different route. I didn't want to feel like I was letting him down. But at the end of the day, I knew that no matter what, he was going to be proud of me. So I was talking to a good friend of mine, Lane Abshire, that you know, and he said, if you don't get your paramedic, you are wasting away your skill of leadership. And that resonated with me a lot because I do feel like I have that quality about me where I can walk into a room and kind of help people group together and head towards one goal. But either way, I decided, all right, I guess I'll give it a shot. And he also brought up a good point. He said, Alex, you're not gonna like being bossed around in an emergency room.
True.
I was like, what do you mean? He's like, you're not gonna live, laugh, love in that environment. I said,
I can hear him saying that.
yeah. I was like, yeah, you're probably right. So I, put all my eggs in one basket and I went for it, and I'm glad that I did.
I can personally attest, I only did one ride time with you and Lane.
Yeah.
But even then, like, you had that naturally, like, being able to take charge, being able to do the things, know what to do, know why you're doing them, all that stuff. I feel like I had to learn that along the way.
Yeah.
So you definitely have that embodied within you. And that's something that I would even venture to say that a lot of people in EMS, medics and EMTs, you have to learn that. But, like, you definitely have that. Like, you have what it takes to survive in EMS. And you've been in this long enough, obviously.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you brought that up because, honestly, it's not something that I garnished naturally. Like, I didn't start in EMS and was just a natural at it. I worked at it. I'll be 100% with you. The first 2 years of me being a basic, I was awful. People hated working with me. I was lazy, I was arrogant, and I would walk into our station and I would be like, okay, there's an ambulance there, and I would go inside and eat breakfast and watch cartoons. Like, I did nothing. One of my partners needed me to set up a duo-neb, and I didn't even know how to do it. And was mad at him because I didn't know how to do it. And I was like, why didn't you teach me this? And he's like, you never take initiative,
Oof.
Right. So it wasn't something that I just naturally had. I had to grow up in it. Like, I grew up in EMS. I started as this 18-year-old kid with a chip on her shoulder and became a 25-year-old woman who is mature and can sit here in a situation and say, okay, what can I do and how can I be better? And that was something that I had to learn along the way, honestly. So I guess there are people who have it naturally, but I definitely was not one of them. I wasn't. Like, you go back and ask my partners, they were like, oh yeah, I saw I was working with Alex that morning, and I was like, Jesus. Oh boy, Not that people didn't enjoy working with me. I just, again, I had a chip on my shoulder. My personal life wasn't that great, and I let that affect a lot of what I had in EMS, so it was something I had to learn.
Yeah, and it is a whole other aspect of when you have something going on in your personal life. It's not that easy to shut it off and just get to the job, do whatever, because, like, you encounter people and you encounter patients in situations that you literally are in that moment. Yeah. And, like, you can take it to where it's like, oh, well, I can help them better because I've been through this. But it's also like, this is hitting so close to home.
Absolutely.
It hurts.
Yeah, for sure. I guess bringing it back to me being young and dumb in EMS, I didn't have the tools necessary to separate my personal life from my career. So that church and state that we so desperately need in this field, I did not have. So that contributed a lot to why I was the world's worst EMT. And then it's funny because looking back, I got EMT of the year like 2 years ago, and I was like, I have imposter syndrome. I don't deserve this.
No.
I swear. I was like, oh my gosh. It really comes full circle. But Yeah, that personal aspect versus, being at work and having to separate the two is not an easy thing to do, and it's not taught either.
Mm.
When you go to EMT school or paramedic school, they teach you how to save a life. They don't teach you how to manage yours while doing it, which is hard, and a lot of people struggle with that, and I definitely did. But I've gotten to a place now where I have structure in my life, and I'm very routine based, and it helps me with my job and my personal life, and I'm able to separate the two and then thrive in both at the same time.
And it contributes to, one, I'm not going to go on a tangent about it, the lack of attention to the mental health aspect of this job. And we've gotten a lot better. Like, I feel like this field has gotten a lot better of actually being able to say, like, hey, we go through tough stuff, but we're human beings at the end of the call, whatever. So it attributes to that. And in that aspect, it attributes to the idea that if your cup is not already full from either, if you want to go like self-care, taking off a personal day when you need it, dealing with your own stuff, if you don't have that full cup for yourself, you can't pour it into, you can take it on like calls, helping patients, doing whatever, but even kind of like you said of like with your partner, like being able to if you're a medic or even if you're an EMT, like helping your partner throughout the call or teaching them stuff, like you don't have that motivation because you're already lacking that in yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah, I completely agree with that. I have this thing that I do, which I think one of the questions you had sent me was, let me find it real quick. How do you decompress? How do you balance work and personal life, and how do you decompress? I have this thing that I came up with for myself. After my dad passed away, I took about a year and a half of a lot of really self-reflection, and I went to therapy for about 8 months, and that's where I've learned a lot of the tools that I needed to be able to survive, even if I wasn't in a career that is EMS, but just to be able to manage my day-to-day life. And it's like I go home, I recharge, I regroup, and I refresh. Those are the 3 things that I do no matter what my turnaround time is in between shifts. Could be 24 hours or 76 hours. Either way, in that time off that I have, I'm going to do those 3 things. So the recharge part of it could be sleeping till 3 o'clock in the afternoon if that's what I need. If your body needs rest, your body needs rest. Hard thing for me with that recharge thing was not feeling guilty about it.
Right.
Going home and needing to sleep till 3 o'clock and then waking up and saying, man, I wasted my entire day. But I had to teach myself and tell myself, like, it's not your fault. You work in a field where you have XYZ expected out of you for 24 hours at a time. You need to recharge.
Right.
You have to recharge. So that's what I do for that. And then regrouping is, that's kind of more of the mental aspect of it for me. I will call people, whether it's Lane Abshire or Jacob Davis, or even just talking to my boyfriend about my day at work. It could be so mundane and monotonous and just the dumbest calls ever,
right.
But I'm still going to talk about it. I need to get it off my chest, offload it, and then let it go. And that's how I'm able to do that. And that also gives me the opportunity to self-reflect and then self-improve on calls that I feel like I could have done better. So that's where I'll call Lane or Jacob and be like, hey, I had this. This is what I did. What do you think? And I'll do research if I need to. And then I'm done with that. Moving on. So then I have my refresh. And this is kind of, recently it's been my favorite part. It's where I prepare myself. Because a lot of being nervous in our field, or being nervous on a call, or nervous on the way to a call, is because of a lack of preparation.
100%.
So I will, whatever it is I feel like I need to improve on, that's what I'm going to do. And then also in my personal life, refreshing for me is cleaning my house, doing my laundry, getting caught up on that. And I enjoy it so much. I'm like one of those clean talk girls now. I'm just like mopping in my kitchen and listening to like Mary J. Blige, having the time of my life, you know? And that helps decompress me as well. And then all those three things together, you can do it in a matter of 3 hours, or you can do it in a matter of all day, you know? But doing those three things for me really helps to center me, get me organized, and get me back on track and focused. And it's changed my life. So.
No, two things I want to highlight on those ideas of, one, I completely agree with what you say about like cleaning, kind of like, for me, it's kind of decluttering the house a little bit more or less. It makes such a difference when I come home from a 24-hour shift and the bed's made.
Oh, yeah, man.
Versus coming home and it's like, I feel like it's an accurate representation of what my mind is like, and there's just stuff everywhere.
Absolutely.
Another plug I want to make, if you don't already have this and you're in this field, you have got to have people that you can call after a call or after shift the next day, whatever. And not only can you talk the call out, but they can give you not necessarily harsh criticism, but give you the reality of like, hey, there's this thing you could have done. You should have done it.
Oh, 100%. 100%. That's something that, again, going back to little crappy EMT Alex, I was not good at constructive criticism. I would get so defensive. I hated hearing about it. Nothing I did was wrong. Like, I had attitude. I had a chip on my shoulder, you know? But I don't know where I hit that, like, wall of humility at, but I'm glad that I did. Because, Jesus Christ, you know? I was like, I look back and I'm like, oh my God, I could not have worked with me. I couldn't have done it. But, yeah, I have a good group of people that I will call at any given time, and they will give me that criticism, and I love it. I love it now. Whereas in the past, I couldn't take it. I couldn't hack it. Now it's like, I'm almost disappointed if they said you did exactly what I thought you should have did. Like, are you sure? Say something.
Something is better than nothing.
Yeah. I started an 18 gauge. Well, you should have did a 16, I guess. I don't know, Alex. What do you want me to say? Like, you know, like, I'm constantly searching for that. And I don't know if it's like, it's not an ego boost that I'm looking for. It's honestly just, I genuinely at my core just want to be good at it. I want to be, like what you said at the beginning of this intro, which is why I got so, I guess, emotional for a second there, was I want to be that person that people say, I hope she's there. I hope that she shows up on scene. And when I do, they take a big deep breath and they relax because I'm there. That's what I want to do and be. And so I need that criticism. It makes me feel better. So.
And if you're not growing, then you're going to stay stagnant. And if you stay stagnant, it affects your ability to do the job. It affects your patient care. It affects, I would even go as far as to say, your partner's attitude about a shift. Like, it affects so much more than just, well, I feel like I'm good enough. We're good.
Yeah. Lane Abshire, he actually has a saying that kind of went viral. It's accountability prevents complacency. And going back to that feedback that I so desperately look at and need, it prevents that complacency. Because if you reach a point where you aren't growing, you aren't learning, you need to get out of EMS.
Yes. You
do. Because this isn't a 9-to-5 desk job.
No.
These are people's lives, you know? Like, if you aren't constantly taking a good hard look at yourself and asking, what can I do better? Then you need to maybe take a good look in the mirror. So, yeah, accountability prevents complacency, and that's something I'll never forget for the rest of this career.
Absolutely. I want to go ahead and, because I'm excited about it, jump into the year in review.
Oh,
yeah. When, this is just maybe me, when you start paramedic school, I mapped out, like, all right, we're going to get through this next year, whatever. I'm going to get through clinicals. I'm going to be the best that I can. I'm going to be a medic. I'm going to make my own decisions. And that was like my whole motivation of going into paramedic school was I saw some of these calls with a couple of medics, and I'm like, I could have done that better. Maybe that's a little arrogant, I guess. I don't know.
Hey, we have to have some sense of arrogance in this field.
A little bit. If
Don't
you don't
feel
have
guilty
that,
about it.
no,
Yeah.
if you don't have that pride and that ability, like that self-confidence of like, I can do this, you're gonna drown.
100%.
So like I kind of went into it I was like, I'm gonna run my calls, I'm type A, and you get it. Like, I don't want people telling me what to do. I want to tell people what to do, which is ironic because I struggle with like delegation because I do it all myself. I'm like asking questions as I'm putting on a blood pressure cuff, and my EMT is like, what do you want me to do? And I'm like, oh, sorry.
Yeah, I forgot about that, buddy. My bad.
So like you have this expectation and stuff like that. Then you pass registry, you pass your skills and stuff, which apparently is going out of style. I don't know. I have mixed feelings on that.
Yeah, I do too.
And then you get out into the quote unquote real world of being a medic. And for me, I don't want to say it's a 180 of what I expected, but it's very different. At first, for me, it was really scary because I was like, it's just me and an EMT, which, okay, low key, I was blessed because I got my medic and I worked with Logan for a couple of months while I was still in Louisiana. So I'm like double stacked. Then I moved to Utah and we're double stacked. So
You spoiled brat.
I am.
You spoiled brat.
I definitely had it, like, it was cake. It was so cake. But even with Logan, even with other partners, I still had that aspect of, like, they would basically take, like, the basic, and I hate saying it like that, but they would take the basic position of, like, well, you run the call, you do this. So, like,
Yeah.
I'm not far removed from that, but still had a cake.
For sure. Well, that brings up the question that I have for you. How do you feel like that affected your experience as like a paramedic on your own, like on your own 2 feet? Do you feel like it negatively affected you or positively affected you or vice versa?
I feel like in the positive aspect, I had moments where I was, and this is kind of negative too, I had moments where like I would get stumped. And so I had that fallback of like, hey, what do you think? And you don't get that when 9 times out of 10, you don't get that with an EMT basic partner. And so I feel like for me, it was good because I was able to like build myself and my confidence, especially like after call, being able to reflect with my partner of like, hey, what could have gone better? What went well? And next time try, and have like that real time aspect of that versus like having to like write it down and call somebody the next day.
Yeah.
So it built me in that, and it built my confidence a lot. But also, I missed out on what I'm getting now of a lot of those sweating moments where it's like, I know what this rhythm is, but what if it's not? And then like, hey, this is a very high-paced call. My EMT, like I'm trying to tell them what to do, but I'm also like working 5 steps ahead in my mind. So I'm like, we have so much to do.
Yeah, that heart rate raises, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it
Knees are sweaty. Wait, what is it? Palms
are sweaty, knees weak. Arms
Yeah, that crap. Mom spaghetti. You know what I meant. Come through, Eminem. No, but I completely agree with you on that because I feel like we had a similar experience. After I got my paramedic, I was double stacked with Jacob Davis for
good medic,
fantastic medic. He should be a doctor, right?
Yeah, facts.
I tell him that all the time. I'm like, you big-headed dude. I was like, you need to go be a doctor with that big brain of yours. I call him Jacob Marie all the time, and it's starting to, like, spread to the ERs. So now the nurses are calling him Jacob Marie. I just love it. I love it so much. But, yeah, so for the first 2 to 3 months of being a paramedic, I was double-stacked with him. And that's so intimidating, right? Because he's a different caliber of medic. The way that this man's brain works impresses me to no end. And he thinks of stuff outside of the box that you wouldn't even think of as a paramedic. And it had its pros and its cons. Similar to what you were explaining, like the benefit of working with him was learning how he does his assessments and trying to mimic that because his assessments are so top tier.
Yeah.
He gets to the bottom of everything. He can tell you why that patient's left pinky nail is bent backwards. Like, something you wouldn't even notice, right? But Jacob's like, oh yeah, he stubbed it a couple days ago. You know? Like, that is impressive to me, and I love that. But then the con of it was getting on a truck by myself. I was like a baby deer, you know? I was like, geez, I don't have this awesome paramedic that I can fall back on in a moment of weakness where I'm like, I don't know what's going on. I have no idea what's happening, you know? And I have a fantastic EMT basic, Blake. He's been doing this for 15 years. So I really value his opinions on calls a lot. But at the end of the day, like, I can't ask him the dose of medication for an epi drip for an anaphylactic shock, you know?
Yeah.
Like, so it has its pros and it has its cons, but I genuinely appreciated it so much more than I did the negative aspect, because I learned things from working with another paramedic that I would not have gotten if I hadn't. And that means more than the alternative. And what else was I going to say? I forget. Oh, I had imposter syndrome.
Right.
Like,
right.
I genuinely was like, what am I doing here? Who the hell told me that I could be a paramedic? Yes. Who gave me this patch, and why did they give me this patch? Like, it was a struggle for me to grasp the reality of being a paramedic and knowing that when shit hits the fan, it's on me.
Yeah.
You know, it's on me, dog. And that was not fun for a hot minute. But moving through it was interesting, because I was like, I was proving to myself that I did deserve it. And that was fun. That was cool. So.
No, I feel that, because it's taken quote unquote this long, but I'm finally able to feel like when I call and report to the hospital, like, they're not going to be like, who are you and why do you think you're doing this?
Yeah.
Or like giving report on a trauma, like level 1 trauma patient. Like, I feel like I can finally get through the report without stumbling. Mm-hmm. And I'm not looking at the doctor like, help me.
Yeah. And you know what? That's something that I didn't mention this, but being a basic for so long and then going and getting my paramedic was crucial to, I guess, people's vision of me being a natural at this or whatever, because I was capable of walking into a room not knowing what the hell is going on with the patient, but speaking so fluently that they believed everything I said.
Yeah.
Faking it till you make it was something I could do until the day that I died. I just walked into this ER, this trauma bay filled with 30 doctors, x-ray nurses, and this and that, and I'm like, all right, so this is who I got, and this is age, and this is what happened, and I've got pictures, and, you know, like, I've got it all. Like, it's all mapped out. I wrote it down for you. Here's the paper for the demographics. This is my last set of vitals. Here's your patient, you know?
Yeah.
And that was something that not a lot of other paramedic students in my class had.
Yeah.
So, it set me apart from them. But for me, I felt almost bad about it. You know, I was like, I wish that I could explain to my classmates, it's not that I'm good at this. I've just been doing it for forever, you know, and I'm really good at faking it till I make it. I promise you, it's just something that I've got a lot of experience in. And yeah, I don't know. It was cool though. It's cool though. Like, that's that pride factor, being able to call and they're like, oh, it's Alex with MedExpress, you know? Okay, what's she saying? This is what she's got. All right, well, let's get the trauma room ready. You know, like, she's not making it up. Like,
right.
It's true. Like, what she's got is for real. So that makes me feel good that I have the ability to make other people feel like they can trust me with patient care. Because that's such a huge thing, right?
Yeah.
Trust and respect in the medical field. It's invaluable.
That's a really good point. And they don't teach that in paramedic school.
No, they don't.
Building rapport with the ER, especially like, because we drop off at pretty much the same hospitals
Time and time again.
Yeah. And if you don't have that rapport with those ER nurses or those ER doctors, like you said, like, they're not going to take you serious.
It's a very good point, actually, because I had a conversation the other day with somebody about this exact topic. Was I finally, after my, year in review, I anticipating walking into ERs, shaking in my boots, hi, I'm Alex and this is my patient. They're having an MI, by the way, and I expected them to just take me seriously and be like, oh, okay, baby girl, come in here. This is what we're going to do. Everything's fine. Hold my hand and kind of walking me through it. That's not how it went at all. You walk in there and you don't have your head held high and you don't have that confidence, they're going to eat you alive.
Yeah.
Period. So I just walked in and faked it till I made it. And now all of these nurses in my area know my name. Like, just that in and of itself makes me feel good. Oh, hey, Alex, how are you doing today? What you got? Oh, this is what you have? Okay, cool. Can I triage this patient in the ER, or do they need a room? They ask me those questions, which means to me they trust my judgment, which is huge.
Yeah.
It's huge.
So kind of knowing what you know now, and as you're still growing, as you're still learning, navigating through this as we go along, all that stuff, what would you say is a recent or past call that's challenged you? Whether it's like challenged you to go look up a specific system in the body, or something that maybe challenged you like emotionally, or something that kind of made you like stop and think a little bit. What you got?
I have a fantastic call for this question. I tell this call to everyone and anyone that'll listen, because it is such a great representation of what tunnel vision can do to a medic.
Oof. At me.
Right?
Dude,
Yeah.
I get such bad tunnel vision.
I know. So look, I'm gonna lay the call out for you, and I'm not gonna give you any of the answers or anything like that. I'm just gonna lay it out, and let's see. By the way, I fumbled the bag on this call, so it was definitely something that I had to go back to the drawing board again and be like, all right, Alex, like, you really need to get it together, I'm gonna lay it out for you and see if you can catch what I missed.
Okay.
Okay. So I was actually working with Tyler Arsenal.
Good medic.
Love him to death. He fumbled the bag on this call too. I'm calling him out. Love him to death. He's a good medic. I don't care, but he did not at any point in time say, Alex, what are you doing, dude? Like, so, all right. So this is how it went. It's around noon. I was still working with Jacob at the time, but this was one of my very first shifts on my own. And although Tyler was in P school, he was still basic at the time. So we get a call for chest pain / unresponsive. It's in the middle of like, I want to say it was like around this time last year, but it was hot outside. So cool. We get en route. Dispatch tells us in the notes that the patient has an extensive cardiac history, including MI and a pacemaker. They go ahead and dispatch air evac. They're about 25-ish minutes out. They're going to do a scene flight because there's a field next to the house. Awesome. We pull in, and this woman runs up to the truck. She says, it's for my grandfather. I'm an RN, and proceeds to give me the best possible report, medical history, medications, everything that you could have asked for on this particular type of call. So she says her grandfather was outside mowing the yard. He had been outside for maybe 30, 45 minutes. He walks inside, covered in sweat. He says, I don't feel good. Sits into his recliner, goes limp and unresponsive. His eyes were still open and he was still tracking, but he wasn't speaking and he couldn't obey commands. So I'm freaking out.
Right.
I'm like, Tyler, this is a real deal, dog.
Yeah.
This guy's heart's giving out right now. He's about to die. Let's freaking get in there like swimwear. So we throw all of our crap on the stretcher, go inside. I'm like, all right, you do this and you do this and you do this. And Tyler's on it, man. He puts him on the monitor. Everything you possibly think. ETCO2, blood pressure, SpO2, heart rate, like everything. And this is what I was presented with. Patient sitting in the chair. He's looking at me. Pale, cool, diaphoretic. Can't speak. can't really move, but I can tell that he was with it and he knew what was going on. Vitals are like as follows. Blood pressure was, I think, at 178 over 90 something. Heart rate was 43. Jesus. Ventricular pacemaker rhythm. SpO2, 90% room air. EtCO2 was elevated. Respirations were probably, I want to say, like 27 at this time. So immediately, this is what I'm thinking. There's something cardiac going on. I cannot determine what it is because he's in a ventricular pacemaker rhythm. Thank God air evac's coming. Right. Yes. Thank you, Lord.
The 911 for paramedics.
Literally. That is such a good point, though. Like, oh, Dad, please help. Yeah. When your tire goes flat on the side of the road, Yeah. You call it, hey, I need your help out here. That's funny. Anyway, so that's my initial set of vitals. I put him on the pads. I put him on 15 liters O2 non-rebreather. I start listening to my assessment. I'm investigating. I'm asking family, what was he doing before this? Was he complaining of anything? Any recent falls? Everything's normal. Wasn't complaining of everything. Everything was fine. Yada, yada, yada. All right, cool. I'm thinking at this point in time, it's either cardiac or he could potentially be having heat stroke.
Yeah.
What did I miss with the heat stroke?
Well, if he's still sweating, it's not heat stroke.
Correct.
Which is easy to say as a Monday morning quarterback. Yeah.
But I should have still known that. Doesn't matter. As paramedics, that is our job. We need to remember those things. And that went out my mind. I was like, oh, this is probably heat stroke.
But presentation sounds so cardiac.
Right?
That
yeah,
I can see it.
Right. So this is what I do. I initiated cool down therapy.
Good. Yeah.
Fans, ice packs underneath the armpits, trying to get him cooled off. He cools off. His SpO2 was coming back up. He was probably 100% room air, or not room air, he was on the O2. But he's still in that ventricular pacemaker rhythm. This is where stuff gets wonky. Please buckle up for this. Because when I tell you that tunnel vision and nerves played a huge factor on this call, I am not saying that lightly. So, I know that air evac at this point is about 10 minutes out. We've got the patient loaded onto the stretcher. I still have no idea what is going on. And I am searching for answers. I am clawing for anything to tell me what's going on. By the way, lung sounds clear and equal, chest rise equal, everything was good. Pupils, normal, equal, reactive to light. I had no idea. What? I don't know. I'm presuming cardiac. I'm looking at his heart rate, and at this point, it's like 30-something. I said, oh, he's about to code. Okay, great. What can I do? Well, I can't pace him. He's on a pacemaker.
Yeah.
Atropine. I draw up atropine for this patient. And then, this is also something that I would like for us to talk about. Having a gut instinct on a call as a paramedic.
Yeah.
And leaning into that, because it can really alter how calls, the outcome of them. I draw up this atropine, and I'm looking at his heart rate, and I'm thinking, if I don't do anything, he's going to code. So I had this just urge to want to perform, but something in my gut was like, don't do that. So I didn't. I screwed it onto my little carabiner, and I left it there. But I still, yet again, we're sitting underneath the patio at this point. Patient's not stable, but he's not dead yet. And I'm thinking, I need to do something. What can I do for a ventricular rhythm? Ventricular rhythm, amio. Alexis, I told Tyler, draw up some amio for me. So he does. He didn't stop me.
Oh no. Oh no.
So he draws up this amio. And he hands it to me. And yet again, urge to perform, gut instinct telling me, no, bad idea, don't do that. So I screw it onto my little carabiner.
So it's like 2 vials, 2 syringes, just
two
like hanging out.
serious medications,
Yeah.
just hanging out on my shoulder. And it's like speaking in my ear. Like, Alex, you know you want to push this. You know you do.
So sultry.
You know that you want to kill this patient. You know you do. Just to put on that ticket that you pushed something. You know? You did something. And I'm sitting there and I'm stumped. At this point, vitals read as follows. Heart rate was, I think, still in the 30s. SpO2 is fine because I got him on the O2. ETCO2 is just all over the place. Blood pressure at this point has raised to like 200 over, let's say, 120. Okay. So, Air-Evac lands. They come underneath the patio. And when I tell you that I did some investigating, I was Sherlock Holmes on this call. So I had, again, my paper was filled out top to bottom. I had everything about this patient that these guys needed to know. I hand them the paper. I look this man dead in the eyes, whoever it was, I forget his name, and I say, I have no idea what's happening, but this is what I've got. And I explain everything. Very quickly, but I explain it all. Before I continue, let me stop and ask you if you caught what I missed.
So part of me is, I want to know what the blood sugar is.
Oh, I'm sorry. CBG was normal.
Okay.
Yes.
I feel like it's right there.
It is.
I feel like it's right. I don't know. Right now, I don't know.
Cushing's triad. Do you remember what Cushing's triad
Never
is?
even crossed my mind just now. That
Yeah.
never even crossed my mind right now.
Mine either.
But
Mine either.
That plays into the stroke aspect, though.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. He was in Cushing's triad from the moment I got there, and it progressively got worse. Okay. Cushing's triad is the bradycardia, irregular respirations, and elevated blood pressure. Blood pressure is rising, heart rate was falling, and his ETCO2, remember I told you, is like all over the place. Just didn't make sense to me. So they get there, and these guys are, the big heroes. They walk in,
Top
he's like,
tier.
yeah, he's like, okay. And I knew, in that moment, he knew something I didn't. And I look at our patient, and in that exact moment, upwards left fixed gaze, left-sided weakness, starts seizing.
Quality. Jesus.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah. Tunnel vision, right? I'm thinking cardiac. No way it's not cardiac. Man was having a hemorrhagic stroke the whole time.
I'm not gonna lie. This whole time, I've been thinking strokey.
So
I've
did
been
I.
thinking strokey.
I did too, but I was thinking
Yeah.
heat stroke, right?
Yeah.
But I still missed that Cushing's triad. Because if I would have caught on to that, the moment I walked through the door, I would have known. I almost pushed atropine and amio on a hemorrhagic stroke.
Oh, God.
Ventricular pacemaker rhythm. If I would have pushed that amio, he would have died.
Yeah.
So that tunnel vision, nerves, and your gut instinct is something that, as a paramedic for our year review, I truly have learned the importance of all three. Being able to consider everything. Don't sit and focus on one thing, because it's that one thing you're not paying attention about that's really going to bite you in the butt, right? And then my nerves, you're not, sometimes you're not going to be able to help that.
Yeah.
But you got to throw that out the window.
Yeah.
Let it go. It's only going to stand in your way. And then that gut instinct, man, that has saved my butt on so many calls. Truly. That it is something I feel like as a paramedic, if you don't have you need to get it.
Yeah.
Go buy it on discount somewhere because that gut instinct, man, is going to save you so many times. I, in my mind, had no reason to not push that atropine or amio. I had no reason not to. Even though, in the books, education-wise, you're not supposed to. But in that moment, I forgot all about all of that because of the tunnel vision. But my gut was saying, don't do that. And I listened. And it's a huge factor in a lot of my calls. So I guess you could say I'm a natural. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Man.
Crazy, huh?
I'm not going to lie. I'm going to out myself. Cushing's triad
Yeah.
did not cross my mind.
Yep.
Did not. And that's why I'm not a flight medic, I guess. But like, kind of like that gut, it's part of, like, this job seeps into who we are. Not necessarily personality wise, where like you get a Star of Life tattoo, or like you have the EMS license plate, all that.
Oh God, don't get me started.
You can have a personality outside of this job.
Yeah, please do.
You should.
I'm begging.
Make the rest of us look better. But no, it's in that idea, like, you learn all the stuff through paramedic school. You learn on the job. You do all this stuff. But in your subconscious, you are absorbing every call.
Yeah.
And this is, again, for the people in the back, absorbing when you call people about, whatever shift or whatever calls and stuff like that, and you learn from that. You're piecing that together in your subconscious mind to where in moments like that, it comes back, even though you're not able to, like, pinpoint in that moment, like, oh, this is Cushing triad.
Yeah.
Like, you still know, like, hey, like, your brain has already stored all of this information from the eons of time of starting this job. Mm-hmm. You can kind of, like, you're pulling from it to where you're able to say, like, hey, I shouldn't push amiodarone.
I don't know why I shouldn't push this, but I
I
definitely
know.
shouldn't push this.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm so glad you brought up that point because I beat myself up over that. I want to know the pathophysiology about everything.
Right.
I want to be like Jacob Davis and tell you XYZ down to lab values why I shouldn't push amio on a ventricular pacemaker. Like, Jesus, dude, are you kidding? But ultimately, sometimes you're just not going to have the answers.
Yeah.
And I had to accept that. And it was almost like accepting defeat for me. That's why it settled with me so heavily, and I bring it up to everybody. Also, it makes me feel a little bit better when nobody else catches it. I'm like, okay, so I'm not that bad of a medic. No. Jesus, okay, great. But what I find funny is following that call, they obviously RSI, intubate. I don't know what the outcome of the patient was, but I do know that whoever that crew was talked to their supervisor, and their supervisor, Kirk, ended up texting Steven, and I still have this screenshot to this day. I might print it and frame it. I might. But it was Kirk saying, crew just got back to me, said Isaac and Arsenal did a fantastic job. One of the best reports they have gotten in years. We're going to keep our eye on her for the next 3 years. We would like to follow her career and see what she does.
Holy smokes.
Yeah, dude. Huge.
That is major.
I walk away from this call, Alexis, and I'm like, I fumbled so hard on that call. I made a fool of myself.
I wouldn't go that far.
But that's how I felt, though.
No.
Right?
Yeah.
That's how I felt, though. Because there's no higher critic of me than me.
Right.
And I think we all feel that way. And so walking away from it, I'm like kicking rocks, my head's dragging. I'm like, man, 45 minutes later, I get this text and I'm like, crap, okay, I guess I didn't do that bad, So let's go back again to the drawing board and see what I could do next. So here I go. I'm calling my people. I'm telling them everything start to finish. Well, Alex, you missed Cushing's triad. Sorry, don't know what to tell you. You missed it.
Right.
You need to know these things, And everything boils down to your assessment. Because Cushing's triad, it's part of your assessment. If I had known and caught that, I would have been able to say, this is what I have. This is what I've done. Realistically, I wouldn't have been able to do anything for him except supportive care, but I would have had an answer.
Yeah.
You know, but I think what that crew respected the most was my brutal honesty and me saying, I don't know what's happening, and I almost did X, Y, and Z, but something was saying not to, but this is the information I've gathered so far. And they were able to say, all right, we can work with this. You know, you got bilateral 18s. That's a start.
Absolutely.
You know, cheers to that. Shoot. She don't know what the hell's going on, but we've got some IVs working for us. You know? Thanks, Tyler, for starting that other one for me. Appreciate that. But yeah, man, it was a reflective moment for me. And I'll never forget it. And I promise you, I'm never going to miss Cushing Stride ever again for the rest of my career. I won't. I'm calling Cushing Stride on crap that's not even Cushing Stride.
Just to make sure you
It
don't...
might be. I don't know. That heart rate was 52. It's a little low for me. You know?
I feel like in that idea, like when I think of that question to ask other people, like I think of calls that I'm like, yeah, I feel like I learned a lot from that. That is one of those calls, especially early into being a medic, like most people have that once in a lifetime of this career call. Mm-hmm. So that's powerful. And your ability to look at those medics and just the flight medics and be like, I have no clue what's going on.
Oh, yeah.
That takes a lot, and it shows a lot about your character. Like, one, I did not pick up on Cushing Stride.
Yeah.
Two, I think that says a lot about your character and, like, your ability to, like, mad respect. Mad respect.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah. But it all feeds back into that fake it till you make it attitude that I have. I might not know what the hell's going on, but I'm going to walk into this room with the most confidence I possibly can. And my feet might be dragging, but I'm going to say, hey, look, I don't know. But this is what I do know.
Yeah.
This is what I do have, and this is what I've done. And I think you can get better outcomes from that than you can from walking into a room and pretending like you know everything. Because you don't.
No, there's no way.
You don't. Jacob Davis might. Wayne Abshire might. Stephen Seabaugh might.
Right.
We'll get there one day.
Dude, one of the most powerful moments I've had in an ER was literally I dropped off a patient, gave a report, did all this stuff, and the doctor just so happened to be in there, and I looked at him. I was like, man, I don't know what's going on. I'm just going to be straight with you. Like, this is what I have. I don't know. And he looked at me. He was like, right now? Me either.
Yeah.
But we'll get through it. And I looked at him and said, what? He was like, we'll figure it out. No worries. Good job.
Doesn't that make you feel so much more
So much
human?
better. Yes.
Like just human.
Yeah.
Right? That's almost, like you said, that's powerful. That's powerful because, you know, do you know Dr. Mack?
No.
Okay. He's got a reputation, man. He does, of being hard. Very hard. Just hard shell, strict, to the point, blunt. Excuse my language, but he's a hard, you know? And he's gonna come after you. And I love it. I love it. I eat it up. I walk into an ER and Dr. Mack's there and I got a critical patient and I've had this exact scenario before. I go into a room, he walks in, he's ready for a report, I'm giving it to him, and I say, I think it's CHF. You know what this man looked at me and said? Why? Why do you think it's CHF? You know how humbling that is?
Yeah.
I'm like, well, she's got peripheral edema, and it's pitting +3. That's why I think it's CHF exacerbation. And he's like, okay. And then he walks out of the room, right? I'm over there talking to the nurses, getting the stuff I need to get. But here's the key aspect that a lot of paramedics won't do because they don't like getting their asses chewed. I walked up to Dr. Matt and I said, what did I do wrong?
Yeah.
Why did you ask me? Why? You know? And he's like, I just wanted to know where your mindset was. And then he pulls up the patient's chart and he said, she's a COPD patient. But but it's progressed to CHF.
To CHF, yeah.
She just hasn't been diagnosed with it yet. But you caught it in the field. That's good. He's like, not every doctor is coming at you because, you know, they're trying to wring your neck. They genuinely want to know why you think the way that you are. And that meant a lot to me because no one really can please this doctor, you know? Like, and it's not that he's hateful or anything. It's just he's so intelligent and he's particular and he's articulate and, you know, he wants to know. And I appreciate that so much. All the paramedics in the world that no one really likes because they're scared or intimidated of them, those are my heroes. Talk to me. Let's have a conversation. Tell me what I can do to be like you. I love that. That's my favorite thing in the world.
It kind of goes back to, I don't know if we said it on the podcast, but like what we had talked about was that intimidation and that nervousness on the way to a call is because of the lack of knowledge. And I'll just be blatantly honest. Going to a pediatric call, I'm nervous, and I've learned that like I write down our protocols in a teeny little notebook that I keep in my little pocket of my shirt, because on the way to like a kid with a seizure or something like that, I'm nervous because I'm like, what is the dosage for this medication? Because we don't have a lot of pediatrics. And then I'm like, what if it's this? What if it's this? And it's literally like I need to man up. Ooh, good segue for what we're gonna talk about next.
Love that.
And be like, all right, this is what it could be. Like, it's because you haven't looked at this, that, and the other, blah, blah, blah. Like, low key, I wrote down Cushing's triad because I'm sitting here, I'm like, man, I need to do better.
But you know what? Okay, so preparation will negate nervousness. And that's what I was trying to mention earlier. Being prepared is going to help you to feel less nervous. But also, being nervous is what's going to keep you alive in this career. Because it's going to keep you on your toes, it's going to keep you humble, and it's going to keep you learning. And like we said earlier, accountability prevents complacency. So I have respect for my nervousness and my anxiety to calls for the pros that it will give me. But I'm intelligent enough to know I can't allow it to stand in my way.
Right.
And that's the balance that people have to find. And it's hard. Everyone finds it differently. Like I said, I don't know when I hit that wall of humility that really shaped me into the medic that I am today, but thank God that I did. Truthfully, honestly.
It was actually one of the most powerful moments I had in paramedic school. I was doing a ride along with Lane, and I asked him straight up, I was like, dude, when do I stop getting nervous on the way to calls? And he told me, like, he's still a flight medic. He's a medic extraordinaire. Like, I told him I think our first shift working together, I was like, I have a couple of crushes on some medics. I'm like, you're one of them. I said, so don't disappoint. And he's like, what?
Yeah.
And like talking to him, like the stories you hear about him and the way he's able to break down stuff, and he's so stupidly smart. Like talking to him in a normal conversation, it's one of those things like you wouldn't pick up, but like good medic, good person all around. But
oh yeah,
I'd ask him, I was like, when do I stop getting nervous on the way to calls?
You don't.
And he told me, he was like, when you stop getting nervous on the way to a call, he's like, not like shaking or like nauseous, whatever. He's like, but still that little part of you that's like, okay, here we go. He said, when you lose that, you need to get out the field.
Yep.
And it made me feel instantly relieved. I was like, okay, like maybe I can do this job. Maybe I can get through this.
Yeah, and everything that I just said, that's knowledge obtained from him. Like, because it's true. I mean, when you think about it, right? Like I said, if you lose your nerves, what's going to keep you learning? What's going to keep you alive in this career? That, oh crap, I'm in the hot seat. I really need to know my crap, you know? What's going to keep you from saying, I don't care, I'm just going to show up to work and clock in and clock out and go home, and whatever happens in between happens. Whatever, you're going to kill somebody.
Yeah.
You will. From lack of knowledge and preparation.
You're gonna turn into one of those crusty, burnout medics.
Crusty, dusty, busty, you know?
Dude, one of the
I
ones
can name
that,
a few. I can name a few. Let me not loud cap anybody, but, you know.
One of the medics that I've looked at one in particular, and I straight up asked him, I was like, dude, when are you gonna quit? Mm-hmm. When are you gonna leave? Like,
dude, like, you're making me miserable. Why are you here?
Straight.
Yeah. Dude, like, I've got some stories, girl. I know 8 years isn't enough for most people that probably listen to this podcast, but I've been around the block a little bit, you know? I got some stories, dude. Like,
if you have any questions, comments, concerns, or future topic ideas, please email me at 22@thelipspodcast@gmail.com. Again, that's 22@thelipspodcast@gmail.com. Be safe out there, friends, and never stop learning.